Good morning, this is Belinda again. I am on lesson 12 today. Hope everyone's had a great week so far. Those of us that live in the Powerball state, we're all kind of excited about the big jackpot. So I've been applying today's lesson to that, today's lesson to that. Just not getting caught up in the frenzy, in the hurried, rushed energy that's going around. I'll probably buy a ticket or a few, and I've bought tickets in the past, and it feels different this time. So good luck to us all. The lesson for today states that I am upset because I see a meaningless world. And I never thought about why I was upset, being the reason being that I saw a meaningless world. So a few of the statements that stood out for me in this lesson are that you think that what upsets you is a frightening world, or a sad world, or a violent world, or an insane world. All these attributes are given it by you. The world is meaningless in itself. And, I started just kind of going through and seeing what it was that the world that I see. And I sometimes see a world that is unfair. I see a world I see two worlds, one that's very luxurious, abundant, beautiful. And then I see a world that's impoverished, never enough. And that's the one I grew up in. And when I see that rich world, I feel like I'm not allowed to be in that world. So as those thoughts and feelings came up, I used the statement, I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. But the truth was, I was giving all of that so much meaning. I was giving the rich world so much meaning, and I'll get to this in a minute. The next statement says to do this exercise with your eyes open, look around slowly, and to spend equal time on everything that your eyes rest on, so that we can start to learn that everything has equal value. The bad has equal value, as does the good. And I know I tend to lean towards only wanting the good and trying to figure out how to not let the bad things show up in my life. But this exercise is to help us see that if we see a meaningless world, everything is equal. That's very sobering. Another statement that stood out for me is the sentence that says, I think I see a fearful world, a dangerous world, a hostile world, a sad world, a wicked world, or a crazy world. Using whatever descriptive terms happen to occur to you. If terms which seem positive rather than negative occur to you, include them. And remember, if you land on the idea that there's a good world, it implies that there's a bad one. And a satisfying world implies an unsatisfying world. Now, all these terms which cross your mind are suitable subjects for today's exercises. We'll learn later why the good and the bad, it's important to include both in these exercises. And this is something that Lester Levinson teaches. two of his students, Larry Crane, and I don't remember the other guy, but he teaches the Sedona method, and Larry Crane teaches the release technique. But they're both students of Lester, and he discovered a technique that helps you to let go of both the good and the bad, and to just be in a state of love, and to be, with what Abraham Hicks calls the vortex, or that state of being where you are in peace. Everything is okay, and you're just in the flow. You're not forcing, you're not efforting. Everything just comes to you when you can be in that place of not wanting, of not trying to control or trying to find safety. So this is saying the same thing. And it's the more that I learn and the more that I study, the more courses that I take, the more I see they're all trying to teach us the same thing. They're just different forms. And we get so caught up in whether this is spiritual, religious, scientific. But the message is still the same, all the same. They're just using different words, different forms. When you're done with your 1 minute exercise, looking for examples of things that may upset you, or things that you realize are meaningless, they want you to finish the practice with the statement that says, "But I am upset because I see a meaningless world." Now, the last two paragraphs of this summary are really important. It says, "What is meaningless is neither good nor bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? If you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. Now, but because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. It is this you see in it. It is this that is meaningless in truth. Beneath your words is written the word of God." Now, this is the first time that they mention God in our exercises. And this is important because in my journey, I had to step back and ask myself this question. What do I believe God is? Is God a man somewhere on a mountain with a white robe and a beard, who is a jealous God, who is whose love I have to earn, whose love who I must fear from and all that jazz? I got to a place where I wanted nothing to do with God. I had read the Bible. I'd read some other spiritual, religious books from different faiths, and the truth was, I had no relationship with this entity, this force, this being, whatever this God thing was. I had no clue what he wanted from me, and I was tired of playing by the rules that were given to me. So, one day I sat down, yet I still had this nagging inkling to reach out to God, or what I perceived to be God. And so I sat down and I started talking to God as if he was right here in the room with me. And I'm like, "Okay, God," I said, "I've tried reading your book. I've read your book. And honestly, when I read it, I feel terrible. I feel terrible. The messages that some of my religious leaders push towards me, all they want to remind me about is that I'm a sinner and that I'm not worthy." I says, "And I'm tired, and I am sick and tired of feeling that way. And if that's what you want from me, to feel this way, I don't want a relationship with you." And so then I just posed this question: what is it that you want from me? What is it that you're looking for from me? And at the time, I was in such a negative place, low frequency. I would get messages through radio, songs on the radio, or a movie. I'd be playing a movie, and a statement nothing to do with God. It was just a statement would be made, and then I get this feeling that's the answer to your question. And then eventually it got to where people would show up in my life, and they would just say random things. One specific lady, she is Christian, and her ministry is called Healing Hearts Ministry. Her name is Linda, and she called me out of the blue one day, and she's like, I don't know what this is about, but I know I just have to call you and tell you that God knows that you love Him, and that whatever, just keep doing what you're doing. He knows and sees what's truly in your heart. So, that got my attention. I had not discussed all of this that I'm sharing with you on this video. I've probably shared it with 2 or 3 people. At the time, I had not shared it with Linda because she's very, very Christian. And if I told her about how I spoke to God in that private moment, I don't think she would have talked to me again, because I've shared it with a few people and that are very religious, and they are surprised. They say that the way that I spoke to him was blasphemous, and that it was not God responding. But my personal experience was that it was. And so my point is, you need to really ask yourself, what is it that you see God as? And I have a very different definition of this God entity. I now use the words creator. I use the word Jesus to explain the message that we are all supposed to get. It's not about the man Jesus, it's about the message he had for us. And we get so caught up in the man, in the name, but it's really the message. He was trying to tell us to love ourselves like we love our neighbor. Most of us don't love ourselves. How can we love anybody else if we don't love ourselves? And then, that opens a whole nother can of worms about selfishness, narcissism, and the truth is, let's just keep everything in balance. If we are allowing our inner guide, which is what this program, with this workbook, is helping us to tap into, that wisdom that is within each of us, and if we allow that to guide us in every decision, every moment, then we don't have to worry about narcissism. We don't have to worry about violence. When you're in a place of complete surrender and love for yourself equally as for your neighbor, you're not going to attack anyone. You're not going to want to punish anyone, because and we've all had moments where we have felt so loved and so peaceful that nothing matters. And that's what I think this message here today is to start opening us up to that. But before we can go any further in this lesson, we have to very clearly for ourselves define what how we see God. Because I know for me, he was threatening. I did not want to surrender to him. I was afraid that if I made the statements that I surrender to you, that I would be forced to do things I didn't want to do, that I would have no say in how my life was to proceed. It's a really frightening thing to, at least for me it was. So you have to resolve whatever feelings you feel about what this God entity is, or because that will make it way more challenging to go through the rest of the book, because this God name is going to come up a lot more, and you have to have a solid definition in your mind of what God means to you. And this is one crucial thing that was important for me. I was instilled with this fear of God. It's like he gives us grace and loves us, but on the other hand, you have to follow these rules that are set in his word, in his book, and if you don't, you have to repent and then be forgiven again, and so all that mess. I was afraid of God, point blank. I feared him. And I wanted to reach a point where I could love him because I wanted to love him. Not because I had to impress him, not because I had to do all these things to earn his love. And that was actually something that I did say. I was like, look, God, this is who I am. I'm lazy sometimes. I'm not kind sometimes. I'm in a very angry place at this moment. And either you love me as I am, because I am tired. I'm tired of what it is that I have to do to love you. And a real soft whisper, I heard a really soft whisper that pretty much said, thank you. Thank you for finally being real with me. And this little voice said that I was putting so many limits on this God idea. He's like, you don't think I can handle those words? Because do you think that I will turn away from you because you're not what is considered a good Christian? He goes, just like you, I want to be loved. And I want you to love me because you choose to love me. Not because you're trying to earn salvation, not because you're trying to get a bigger house, not because your life is miserable, but because you just want to love me. And that changed my whole definition of this God creator source entity. I'll talk more about what I now believe God is, but for now, what's important is that you sit down and you have a really good conversation with yourself about what God means to you. And for scientists, God is a frequency, an energy. For atheists, God is not anything outside of themselves. It's that wisdom, that wisdom, that inner guidance that they see within them. That is what God is for them. But see, all of that is the same thing, just in a different form. And if God is, like they say he is, all-knowing everywhere, then he can be all those things at the same time for all of us. So the next part of this paragraph states that the ultimate purpose of this exercise is for us to realize what is meaningless is. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I'm feeling a little spacey and not able to concentrate. So my affirmations for today are, I allow myself to accept that I see a meaningless world. So that's important. It's important for us to allow ourselves to see that, because I still don't want to, at times a thought or memory will come up, or an idea or a belief, and when I apply this to it, it just feels strong. But also, another good affirmation is, I allow myself to see the truth. A truth. And truth are there universal truths? I believe there are. And if we just open ourselves to see that, then things go a lot more smoothly. So that's it for today. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow.